about the future, it is my privilege to introduce two speakers that are paving that future through Fintech. Y como son las últimas dos sesiones del día, yo quiero que el aplauso para ellos se escuche desde aquí hasta Ciudad de Guatemala, ¿ok? Okay. It is my honor to introduce Antonia Rojas. She is co-founder and managing partner of Attom Capital. She leads Latin America's first direct secondary VC fund, bringing liquidity to early investors and employees while backing some of the region's fastest ventures. And she is joined by Adalberto Flores, founder and CEO of Kueski, Mexico's leading BNPL and online lending platform. They have raised over $300 million and expanded financial access to millions. Together, they will share how culture, how resilience, and long-term vision, some of the pillars of Volcano, shape the next generation of fintech leaders. El aplauso, please welcome Antonia and Adalberto to our stage.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much, everyone. It's great to see you, everyone here. And here we're joined by a legendary founder, so looking forward for this conversation.
Hi. Gracias por estar aquí. Qué gusto. Thank you, everybody. It's great to be here.
And I love the energy in which we are starting the panel and this fireside chat. So let's kick off. So, Adal, you founded Kueski in 2012. Oh, 12 years ago, sorry.
I feel like a dinosaur.
Yes, exactly. 12 years ago. You have raised more than $300 million. Marianne, don't laugh. Exactly. You have raised more than $300 million. You have reached more than $350 million in revenue run rate. You have more than 90% recurrence, and you have given more than 30 million loans. So you've done something that many thought it was totally impossible to do in Mexico City and Mexico overall, right? So tell us a little bit about what were you thinking at the beginning and what gave you the courage to start Kueski in the beginning?
Yeah, so great question. So I think we thought about Mexico as a, and generally in emerging markets, the lack of access to financial services and the bad user experience on financial services generally. And we felt that that problem was actually acute in Mexico. And we decided that if we could actually build something that can solve that, we felt that if we could actually build something kind of like in the intersection of credit and payments in Mexico, we could actually build something that could potentially be the wedge to the financial lives of people in Mexico. And it was interesting because we started the company, we started lending money to people, like literally, it was just literally myself with my co-founder. And we were, at that point, we actually just built the website. And we got we got people to go and applied for the loans. We got them an email say, with the loan application. On ourselves, we actually went and got people to, sign the agreements in person, and then we gave them money. But when we started doing that, we discovered that about 65% of the people didn't pay a loan. So the loss rate, the default rate was 65%. So we lent $100 or 100 pesos, and we only got 35 pesos back. So that was a terrible business model, right? And we
that was very courageous to keep going at that point, right?
Exactly. And we spoke with a friend of my co-founder from the chess group. So he was playing chess, ajedrez, and he was saying like he was a PhD in particle physics. So he was part of the group of the particle accelerator in Switzerland called CERN, the one they discovered. So he was part of the group that discovered the boson Higgs, the particle of God, and which actually I think one of the leading scientists actually got a Nobel Prize in physics for that. And he said, Adal and Leo, I think that colliding particles in Switzerland is the same thing as giving loans in Mexico.
Can you imagine that for a second? Like thinking about this collision of particles, comparing it to credit in Mexico City. 12 years ago, how much was it?
Yeah, that was 12 years ago, exactly. So we said like, wait a minute, what do you mean? So he said, if in Switzerland we collide particles, we see how people behave, how particles behave. Like we collect a lot of data, and we start building AI models, machine learning models, and we can start after millions of collisions, we can predict how particles are going to behave, and that's how we discovered the boson Higgs. So what we're going to do is the same thing in Mexico. We're going to do millions of loans, and we're going to apply machine learning models, and then
lose money for several years.
Lose a lot of money.
Before.
Yes. Yeah, the seed investors,
yes,
Joanna,
exactly.
which you know,
Yeah,
they're like,
yeah.
oh man, the loss rate is a little bit too high, right? And what we discovered was really interesting stuff. So for example, in that loan application, if somebody typed extremely fast, their loan application, they tend to be fraud.
Whoa. Remember, don't type too fast next time you apply for a loan.
Exactly. And then if they type slow, they're not fraud, but they have a lower credit capacity. So the loan you need to give them needs to be like smaller. And if they type fast, but not extremely fast, they're phenomenal customers. Nothing to do, yeah. And then we said, okay, if they're in their computers, if they go from one question to another using the tab, they're better customers than ones that are using the mouse. If somebody's applying with an iOS device, they're better customers than they're from an Android device. If somebody's using a Gmail, they're better customers than somebody's using a Hotmail. Hopefully nobody here is using Hotmail, right? Yeah.
Not anymore.
So we started detecting this type of patterns, and we got from a 60% loss rate, and after thousands and thousands of loans, and now we've made, as you've mentioned, we've made more than 30 million loans. Right now we're making like about one loan every second or every 2 seconds.
Wow,
right?
That is impressive.
Yeah.
Was there, Adal, a turning point in which you said AI is really working, and how have you seen it right now with this evolution of AI, which is a different AI that you used 10 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great point. So I think there was a point in which we started decreasing the loss rate from a 65% loss rate to like a 15% loss rate. And we were like, holy crap, this is really working, right? Like the models are working. Because everybody, we actually had a lot of people from the traditional banking industry saying that's not going to work. Because at that point of time, we didn't have anybody from the banking industry.
It's not surprising that people don't believe this was going to work, and then here you are making history.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, absolutely. So it was amazing. So I think that when we hit the 15% loss rate, and then we went to the 12%, and I told the team, if we go below the 10%, we're going to do an amazing trip. That's what I promised. And for me, that was unattainable.
Did you do it? Did you do the trip?
We did a trip. We did the trip for when we hit that goal. And then right now, like for example, Kueski Pay is now in the single mid-digit. So, yeah.
So great point. Before we go to talk about Kueski Pay, maybe many here in the audience don't know exactly what Kueski does. So if you can give a brief overview on the two products, and then I want to dive deeper into how you started thinking through the evolution of those products.
Absolutely. So Kueski is a digital payments and credit platform in which people can go to the website or the mobile app, and they can apply for a loan or a credit line in which they can access to a lending product directly to their bank account, or they can buy now and pay later with one of our merchant partners. So for example, imagine you get a credit line of equivalent to, let's say, 20,000 pesos, like $1,000, for example. You can get that money directly to your bank account, or you can use, you're connected, so we are connected to thousands of merchants. 1/3 of those merchants, of the main merchants in Mexico, are using Kueski Pay as a payment solution, including Amazon, Walmart, Temu, Shein, etc., Nike, like a lot of these, Aeromexico, etc. So you can buy using Kueski, and so it's kind of like PayPal with credit. And one of the things that's really interesting of what we do with Kueski, and especially with Kueski Pay, is that anyone in Mexico, that no matter if they have a bank account or not, no matter if they have a credit history or not, as long as they're legal age, we can they can get access to this credit line. So what typically happens in Mexico is that 60% of the people are unbanked in Mexico,
Yes.
and 80% have no credit card. So what ends up happening is if people want to buy something online, they can't. They need to go to a convenience store like Oxxo in Mexico. So every time they want to buy something, they go to a convenience store, they get a QR code, they pay to Oxxo, they pay an additional fee to Oxxo, and then the merchants can deliver their products directly to their homes. And what we do is we just give them a credit line, and we can consolidate payments. So similar to the way, imagine you get a 1,000 credit line, you can buy in Amazon, you can buy in Walmart, you can buy in all these places, and then by the end of the month, you can go once and pay for all of your payments.
Beautiful. That
Exactly.
is beautiful. So something that has always surprised me about what you guys are doing is the way the synergies between the products. And for the ones that don't know exactly about this, but they have a lot of recurrence in Kueski Cash, and then Kueski Pay, with all the partnerships that they've done, they have a cross-sell to all the other products. So I've seen few startups in Latin America have that level of cross-sale, and that's one of the key reasons why they have reached the massive scale that they have been able to get, right? And why they're going to get the $1 billion in revenue at some points, no pressures. But so I want to talk about that Kueski Pay product because it's so synergistic, and I want to understand a little bit on first, how did you thought about it, how it initially started. How did you manage Amazon to trust Kueski, a startup, to be the exclusive partner in Mexico, and the thousands of partners that have trusted Kueski for their partnership in Kueski Pay?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that what happened and what was really beneficial is every time we think about building a new product, so we currently have 3 products. I'm going to talk about the 3rd product. But so we started with the lending product, and we were able to build the underwriting model when we started the lending product. And essentially, I think that by the time that we were rapidly approaching almost 4 million, 5 million customers, unique customers. By the time that we approached Amazon, we were in 1 million or 2 million customers. So Amazon, it actually provided its credibility on the company, right? We said, we have 1 or 2 million customers that we can bring you, Amazon. And by the way, these customers are unbanked, underbanked. And these is the type of customers that you need to acquire. So I think that one of the things that were interesting and one of the competitive advantages is that Amazon knew that we can actually underwrite the underbanked customer and bring them to Amazon as a potential customer to them.
Which historically weren't their typical client, right? Those clients were going to other marketplaces, and you were able to bring it to Amazon in order to.
Exactly, because most people have no bank account or no credit card or debit card. It's painful for them to buy online, and they felt it was really attractive for them to go and tape it and go access to that market.
And you mentioned in one of our conversations something about the product development that was quite interesting, and how about when you think about any change that you're doing to a product, it needs to add value to the rest of the product. So can you explain a little bit about that mentality for all the founders here in the audience that are thinking on changes to your product and how it can cross-sell to other situations?
Yeah, so it was interesting because when we started Kueski Pay, we originally had the lending product, the personal loan product, and we said, we're just going to offer the same type of product in one of our merchants. So we started offering Kueski Pay, just like we actually had to pay this merchant a fee, and we charged every single customer, we had to charge an interest rate because we were thinking the way we were thinking from the personal loans product. And then it didn't take off. When was
this? Put us in a time, more or less. When was this first test, and then when did you see it started, kicking off? And
this was in 2018.
Okay.
2018, 2019, and it was interesting because this was a relatively big merchant, and we were having 5 to 6 transactions a month. So it was nothing, right? It was nothing, and
you were like, "This, I promise, this is gonna work."
Yes, exactly. But you know something? So we got another merchant which was willing to experiment. And we were saying, hey, let's flip the equation. we are going to pay you.
Can you say the name of that merchant or not?
Yeah,
not yet?
it was Viva Aerobus,
Mira.
the first merchant, which continues to be
Nice.
our, one of our favorite merchants. It's one of the largest airlines.
So for all the corporates here, because I know it's a very varied audience, please give opportunities to startup to test and play. Then you can have an impact afterwards of millions of clients in your pages.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And it worked. It worked because we ended up. So what we ended up happening is we started offering for up to 4 installments with no interest rate. So it's quincenas sin intereses, like mes sin intereses, and it actually just took off. And it became a really strategic core value proposition for Viva Aerobus and enabling, because Viva Aerobus, they do a lot of bus switching. So the people that are typically using a bus, they try to go an airline. And it just immediately, there was an immediate product market fit. And then the other thing that happened is that we ended up discovering, without knowing anything, that the customers that were using Viva Aerobus, they were interested to the personal loan product.
That is amazing.
So there was a lot of cross-selling.
When was this? So you started 2018. When did you start seeing the first cross-sell between all those products?
I think we started seeing it around 2020, 2021, more or less. That
so
we were
3 years of patience.
Yes, exactly. We were seeing we actually didn't really were paying attention to cross-selling.
Okay.
And then we ended up seeing holy crap, there's a lot of people cross-selling. And we ended up, so as we double-clicked on cross-selling, we ended up discovering that a customer they acquired in Kueski Pay, almost 50% cross-sold to the Kueski Cash product, to the personal loan product.
This is probably one of the most brilliant go-to-market strategies that I've ever heard. It's a market customer acquisition cost is negative, because it gives you for the other products, right? It's brilliant.
So if you can see it from that perspective, I think there was a little bit of luck. But if you think of it from that perspective,
luck is always part of the game, So
yeah, exactly.
Good karma needs to be there.
Yes, exactly. Good karma. But we have we have dozens of thousands of billboards, which are our merchants that are promoting the Kueski Pay brand.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
For free, and they're paying us to acquire their customer, right? And then they cross over to Kueski Cash, and then they're happy because we're bringing them customers to them. So the user is happy because they can buy online at 0% interest rate. The merchant gets more customers, and we make our customers happy. It's a unique value proposition.
I love to hear that. And Adal, so something that I think it's important to mention in your story, and just recap, right? This was the cross-selling, and this brilliant strategy was 3 years ago that it started kicking off, right? But along the journey, it was a 12-year journey building Kueski and building what it is today. And that took a lot of discipline on one end, and saying no to many things. So can you walk us through any instance, for example, where you had to be very focused, and any moment and where you said no to something in order to keep building what you were building, and the confidence to know that you were in the right path?
Yeah. So it's a great question. So one example is we've always started the company with a vision of being a culture-driven and a mission-driven organization.
But by the way, they are #1 financial institution in ethics in Mexico. So the #1 most ethical financial institution in Mexico, which is amazing for a lending company. Please give a big applause for that.
Thank you. Just a small thing on that part. When I tell my parents, hey, we got this amazing merchant or amazing partnership, or we hired this amazing person, or we got this investment, they're like, oh, that's interesting, but can you talk about something else? But when we were awarded the #1 most ethical company in Mexico in financial services, my parents were like, that's interesting. I think
now we're proud.
Now we're proud. I'm a little proud. And I was, Mom, Dad, are you okay? Can I get you a doctor? What's happening to you?
That is sweet. That is very sweet.
But so mission and culture has been a big part of it. One thing that we really focus on is the second value that we have. So we have 3 values. Okay. The mission comes first, which is basically to facilitate the financial lives of people in Mexico. The second value is we are a rock band, and we avoid individual rock stars. And the third one is the revenge of the geeks. Because
what?
The revenge of the geeks. So like la venganza de los geeks.
Yeah, the collision particles. Remember the
Yes,
origin
exactly.
story, right?
Because all of us feel we're like, we have our internal geek.
Yes.
When, you know, like, and so we want to just like
yeah,
go out of
totally.
the closet as geeks. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Type of
I
thing.
love it.
So
I didn't know
embrace
this.
your internal your geek. You know?
Uh-huh.
So, but one of it is like, you know, I remember this in the first years of Kueski. There was this team that it was a really important part of what we were building, you know, part of a technical, part of engineering team, and but they were being a little bit like jerks to one of the people doing customer support.
Wow. Okay.
And I think, you know, in startups, people are really some people are really smart. Like for example, the first intern that we had in Kueski won the gold medal in math and in computer science globally in the world. So it's really smart people, but some smart people just, sometimes they're not, like they tend to be jerks. So we told this guy, we said, if you're not nice to people, we're gonna let you go, right? And he didn't feel, because he felt like, oh, things depend on us. Yeah. It was not the intern, it was another guy. And he was there. We gave a warning, he was there. So we had to fire this person, right? Yeah. And we said to his manager, you need to let this person go. And he said, no, I don't agree with you, because I don't care about being jerks and all that, you know, cultural thing that you're saying.
Both them go.
So we fired both.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was interesting because it hurt a lot. Yeah. Like we actually ended up into a lot of problems, and we were fundraising, and they were part of a fundraising deck, and we were presenting to investors with them and everything. And a part of the system was breaking, and we said, we don't care. We really are here for the long term. We want to build the mission. We want to build a safe environment, a safe work job environment, and we don't care, and we're going to take tough decisions. So I think that culture, a lot of companies say that culture is a big part of what they do, but I think at the end of the day, it's having the courage to take tough decisions, even if it sounds counterintuitive. And I think that's really difficult to do.
Yeah, and something that we haven't mentioned is we are investors in Kueski, as in Attom Capital. And one of the things that really, really called our attention, besides all the amazing things that we've spoken, right, and something that we thought was quite unique, was the amount of years people stayed working at Kueski, which is not that common to see in many of the tech companies, you know, in Latin America, right? So you could see people saying 5, 7, even 10 years, you know, and we were surprised. What is this? What is this stickiness? And then the culture is just so strong. And now it's starting to make sense, right? Like the tough decisions that were protecting people and protecting the mission, when you keep the mission as the first value, which is extremely important.
Yes, and I think like initially it kind of like didn't know if there's an ROI or that, but what ends up happening is like because
there is. Come on, you're doing well.
There's that. Yes, exactly.
So we can attest there is a good ROI.
Yeah, but I think that one of the most difficult, like startups, it's a knowledge. People are knowledge workers in startups, right? Like,
yes.
And it's all about the people. And it's really difficult to hire people because some of the guys you're trying to recruit are getting paid millions of dollars by Facebook or Google, all these like. So if you have a strong culture, you can actually recruit them and just say, you know, you're gonna work in an amazing company. So we've been able to work with people that are just absolutely amazing that we would have not been able to recruit or bring to the team if we didn't have, I think, a better reputation of, or if we didn't have this reputation of having a really good culture. I think that's one of the most, and if we have the best people, then we can have an amazing company, right?
Completely agree. What comes first is what matters, right? And I think you've been very disciplined on that. So let's go think a bit about the future. You know, what comes next? What's about this next 5 to 10 years? How do you see Kueski in this next couple of years? And is there a new market? Is there a new product? Tell us a little bit. Tell us your dream.
Absolutely. So thank you for asking. So I think we're going to be closing the year with more than $400 million in revenue run rate.
Way,
So
yeah.
getting to the $500 million, close to the $500 million.
Yes.
And I think that as we're probably, so number one, financially speaking, we're probably not that far away from becoming a pre-IPO company. We're thinking that when we approach closer to the $1 billion in revenues, that's when we kind of like think about, like thinking about the public markets. So from the financial standpoint, I think we at the board level, we speak more and more about becoming a public company.
I would love to see Kueski's client investing in Kueski's shares. I would love to see that when you IPO.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And from the market perspective, I think that at least in the short to medium term, we want to serve the Mexican market, both in Mexico and the United States. Here's an interesting, here's an interesting thing. So we made the research, and we were trying to think, we take the 195 countries in the world, and we took the GDP of each country, and we multiplied times the percentage of people that are unbanked on each country. We ended up discovering that and we call this like the GDP of the unbanked of the world. Number one country in the world, you know which one is it? China. Yes. Second place, if you combine Mexico and Mexicans in Mexico, Mexicans in the United States, it's Mexican market.
Including both US and Mexico?
Yes, including US and Mexico is the
Okay.
second one. If you just include Mexico, it's the third one. So Mexico, as a market, the Mexican market for financial services is the second largest opportunity in the world for financial inclusion. And if you think about how much opportunity and how there's kind of like no really we don't have Alipay in Mexico.
Yeah.
We don't have WeChat. There's no strong incumbent, right? So that it's just for the grabs. It's the second largest opportunity and there's no incumbent. So we feel that if we can double down in Mexico in products, and we can double down and then start doing stuff that we can do with the Mexican, because by the way, the Mexican community in the United States,
Yeah, it's huge.
it's huge, and it's financially connected to
Connected.
our customers in Mexico. You know what I mean? So we want to start launching more and more products within the Mexican community. One of the products that we just launched, and it was just serendipitous, is we just launched a cashback shopping marketplace. So
Which is amazing. If anyone is Mexican and you have the Kueski app, do you? Yes? Then you can do a lot of merchants with cashback and beautiful cashback. So,
Yeah, so
I highly recommend you to check it out.
So for example, if you buy with Kueski Pay, you're always gonna get at least 2% of cashback with Amazon.
Imagine
Every single
all what you're buying in Amazon, earning 2% back.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And we have the same thing with Temu and Innova Sport, Shane. We recently launched Shane, and we have cashback with Shane and many other merchants. And it was interesting because we just bumped into this thing. Like we were like, let's just give cashback. Amazon's gonna pay us for that. And we said like, what's that product that's generating, like just a few months later, we're like, it's generating like $500,000 in revenues. What's that? And we're like, oh, it's a cashback program. Like we should definitely double down on that. And it's interesting because talking about the synergies and the cross-selling between Kueski Pay and Kueski Cash, now we can acquire a cashback user. A cashback user wants to pay a loan. It's all about acquiring high-quality credit customers. A cashback user they want to have a cashback because they can use a cashback in their second or third purchase, right? So this means that people that are using cashback are high-quality customers. So then what happens is a cashback customer eventually becomes a Kueski Pay customer, which eventually becomes a Kueski Cash customer. So it's very difficult to compete against that because there's a strong competitive advantage, right?
Yeah, no, that is a beautiful synergy. And is there any sneak peek of any new product that you're thinking or something that's coming, or you rather leave it to the surprise afterwards?
So we want to work on consumers and businesses, especially in merchants. We are interested into exploring how can we support merchants sell more and get access to more capital. And we're very interested into enabling payments not only between consumers and merchants, but also among consumers as well.
Interesting.
So maybe that's kind of like where we're thinking.
So really the Alipay completely,
Yes,
and the
exactly.
WeChat completely.
Yeah, we want to do the combination of Alipay. And by the way, I used to live in China.
Oh, wow.
I studied Chinese Mandarin at a few years ago. So, but we want to be kind of like the Alipay with the Kaspi. Alipay from China, Kaspi from Kazakhstan, and M-Pesa from Kenya.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the vision of what we want to achieve as a company.
Okay, so we are reaching the end of our time here with all of you. And I want to give kind of like the last question and to give everyone a bit of a reflection and some words of advice, particularly for all the entrepreneurs that are in the year 1 or 2 or 3, where like you were having more than 60% default risk and everyone was telling you're crazy, right? And it wasn't gonna work, or when the Kueski Pay product wasn't kicking off. What reflection would you give all those entrepreneurs here to keep the courage, to keep the discipline, to know when to say yes, to know when to say no, and when maybe to avoid something?
Great question. So I would say, remember when you got rejected when you were a small boy or girl, right? Or when you were just a teenager. For me, for example, I've always been shy. I was like, the geek type of, and I remember when I wanted to kind of like date a girl in high school, and they rejected me many times, right? In middle school and high school, it felt so bad and so painful, right? So every time I go and I try to, because being a startup entrepreneur, it's very humbling.
Yes.
You want to raise capital and nobody wants to invest in you. You want to hire people, nobody wants to work with you. You want to bring customers, nobody wants to work. You get rejected every single time. And founders,
for years, many years.
For many years, yes. And founders don't say that because it's not sexy to say that, right? But in reality, it happens a lot, right? So what I do every single time somebody rejects us in one way, I remember how hard it felt that sweet girl that I wanted to date when I was in middle school rejected me. And I feel it's nothing compared to how I felt when I was in middle school. So I just kept on going and pushing.
I wasn't expecting that finish. I love it. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.